right across the street. Today is the day that if you're a college football player and you have ability to enter the NFL, you have to make that declaration today. And in fact, TCU running back Kendre Miller just did that. Craig, you mentioned that earlier. We're waiting to see what happens with TCU's Quentin Johnston. And then also today, a couple of other big names, and we're about to discuss them. C.J. Stroud, the Ohio State quarterback, record-setting type of a career. He's made his decision to turn pro. That's his letter to Buckeye Nation. We don't have to read the whole thing, but he's entering the NFL draft. And so is Southern Cal USC wide receiver, former Pittsburgh wide receiver, Jordan Addison. He also has posted that he's going to enter the NFL draft.
Yeah, if I would say that he and Quentin Johnston are two of the 3 or 4 guys that would be the first wide receiver off the board. I'm trying to think of who the other one would be. I guess it depends on – I don't think it would be Jackson. If Jackson Smith and Jigba had played this year, I would say he'd be in that mix. But because of the injury, he's probably in the mix for the second or third one that goes off the board.
Yeah, JSN's got to be up there. Jalen Hyatt's probably up there as well from Tennessee. But, yeah, on Kendre Miller, I think that's, something that makes sense for him. I mean, had a big year at TCU. Obviously, the injury there at the end of it, and we know the shelf life of running backs and all that entails. So, disappointing that kind of just, that great season that he had to fade off, at the most important time of the year. But he was important at so many times in the year to get them to that spot to begin with. So, good for Kendre Miller. It's from a small East Texas town in Mount Enterprise. And, here he is, and now he's going to be the bright lights of the NFL draft. And, obviously at that position, I have no idea what that looks like. In the, Bijan and then, whoever.
Kendre, Devin A-Chain, guys like that. But, I think Bijan's the only one who's going to go in the first round.
Yeah, I would think almost assuredly that would be the case because, you've had others who could potentially, I guess, have been that have decided to come back. And that's just such a wild card anyways. That Bijan's such a supernatural freak that he's like the one guy, that you're for sure like, oh, yeah, he's still probably going top 15, top 10. But, I happy for Kendre Miller. Had a great career there in Fort Worth. That's a big loss for them. I think you saw it was a big loss in that title game. And, maybe it wouldn't have mattered against that Georgia defense. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe, that wasn't, just, not having Kendre Miller. I think a lot of credit does go to the Bulldogs, but they certainly could have used him in that game. So, good for him. C.J. Stroud, that comes as absolutely no surprise. I know that there was a lot of scuttlebutt and people having fun trolling on Twitter, teasing that, maybe he could be coming back. There was like a Ohio State collective guy that had teased something that turned out to be like a wedding announcement or whatever. And he kind of put a sign. You're not going to go put together $12 million to bring him back for one more year. Now, maybe we see that eventually, but just in this case, I didn't think that was going to happen no matter how much teasing there was.
Well, compare him to a guy like Jared Verse at FSU who decided to stay. Jared Verse could have, after all the workouts, been a top 10 pick. Or he could have been the first pick in the second round. As where he goes back another year, he's going to be a first-round pick, so he knows. And the collective didn't have to come up with $12 million. They probably came up with a nice little chunk of change for him and left it at that. But, yeah, you're not keeping C.J. Stroud. Like, there's only one other quarterback in the discussion with him who could get taken before him, and that's Bryce Young. And then after that, you're debating, okay, do I want Will Levis? How much do I need to develop Anthony Richardson? So those are the guys that are after that. But with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud clear head and shoulders above everybody else when it comes to the draft this year, yeah, C.J. Stroud would be nuts to go back.
Yeah, he would. So, yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that he waited. There was some drama, not too much really, but there was some thought of like, okay, well, the deadline's coming up, so, like, what's he going to do? And so, yeah, he makes the logical decision there. And then Jordan Addison, is that who else you said there? Kendre Miller?
Yeah. Kendre Miller, Jordan Addison, C.J. Stroud.
That's not a surprise either. That's totally predictable. I wonder how much did he actually help himself in the long run? I mean, he made money, so if that's if that was at the top of the list of desires, then I think he checked that off. But NFL wise, I'm not sure what he really did to his stock one way or the other with the year at USC. So, yeah, that was pretty much a foregone conclusion after he made the decision to move on to USC after winning the Blitnikoff at Pitt. That would be a 1-year deal. So yeah, that makes sense. And I know he's not that surefire number one guy, so it'll be interesting to see where he lands. But that's quite the trio to make it all official. And the good thing about having that deadline is now we can get a clearer picture of just what's what as far as some of the roster decisions go.
We will